Hellhounds slowly start rushing toward the school grounds. Sungwoo is holding on against the heat shockwaves as he needs to get the monsters as close to him as he can. All of a sudden, the Hellhounds come to a stop and they start smelling their surroundings. And Sungwoo thinks that maybe they can smell the dead bodies of monsters buried in the ground. In order to pull them closer, Sungwoo pulls up his dwarven crossbow. He then starts shooting the Hellhounds to get their aggro on him. The Hellhounds become enraged after seeing their brethren getting pierced by the bolts, and they start rushing toward him. Sungwoo says that they look pretty when they are unified like this, and it's nice seeing how they don't have any patience. Sungwoo orders his monster bird to carry him in the sky. After getting up in the sky, Sungwoo uses his corpse explosion skill on the dead bodies of monsters buried in the ground. This in turn results in some huge explosions, which get rid of all Hellhounds, and Sungwoo receives 15,000 gold per Hellhound he killed. Sungwoo is a bit calm now as he just got the sidekicks of the main boss. Now all he has to do is to focus on his main target. After the boss monster gets close, a notification pops up stating that the Hell's moving armor has appeared. The heat wave emitted by the Hell's moving armor is getting fiercer by each passing second. Now, Sungwoo needs to start the second phase of his plan and he summons golems. The dead bodies of Hellhounds get lifted up in the air and they start mashing together. After some time, the meat of the Hellhounds turns into 2 golems, and Sungwoo gets a notification that he has summoned 2 flesh golems. Sungwoo then equips his minions with shields using his battle gear production skill. Sungwoo receives a rank 1 gear synergy called Armor Break. This synergy requires more than 10 units equipped with blunt weapons, and this synergy gives various buffs, such as a stun chance of 6% and additional damage against monsters with medium to large builds, and 10% additional damage against targets wearing plated armor. Sungwoo prepared this special synergy in order to destroy the armor of the boss. After that, Sungwoo orders his bird monsters to charge forward, and they are equipped with fire extinguishers. The bird monsters throw the fire extinguishers on the Hell's moving armor. This in turn lowers the temperature around the Hell's moving armor by a little fraction. Sungwoo used these throwing type fire extinguishers in order to lower its temperature by blocking off the oxygen. But after a few seconds, the Hell's moving armor summons some fireballs. He then uses the fireballs to kill off the monster birds summoned by Sungwoo. Sungwoo can feel that the fire of the Hell's moving armor is still quite strong, so he calls out Hanho to start something. Hanho comes running toward the sports ground. He is carrying a big water pipe and he tells other players to turn on the water valve as he's going to turn this whole place into a swimming pool. Ji-seon realizes that the water is evaporating before it even hits the ground, but Hanho keeps on pumping more water as they need to lower the temperature. The evaporating water is very hot and they are barely holding on, so Hanho tells other players to think of this as a hot sauna. Sungwoo says that now it's his turn to engage in the action, so he summons Righty and the Death Knight after turning his Lich mode on. Death Knight asks Sungwoo that if they just need to break open that metal can in front of them, and Sungwoo tells them to break it to their heart's content. Sungwoo revives the dead Hellhounds around him and Death Knight along with Righty ride on them. Both of them start rushing toward the Hell's moving armor on their undead mounts. Sungwoo uses his Call of Death skill to summon the zombies, which in turn triggers the activation of Weakened Spirit. The Hell's moving armor gets really pissed after getting hit by a bunch of debuffs. He then starts battling it out with Righty and the Death Knight, but they are too fast for him, and they easily manage to dodge his attacks. The fire around them is still very strong, so Sungwoo summons his undead lizardmen to go and spray the remaining fire extinguishers on the Hell's moving armor. The Hell's moving armors gets hit for the second time by a bunch of fire extinguishers. This time, the amount of fire extinguishers was too much, and the area around the Hell's moving armor slowly starts getting enveloped with gas, which in turn cuts off the oxygen supply to the boss monster. On the other side, Hanho keeps on pumping more water on the battlefield. Sungwoo is not finished yet, and he summons the Deadly Clouds right above the Hell's moving armor. The combination of these small tactics is working well in Sungwoo's favor as the Hell's moving armor is becoming weaker. The temperature around the Hell's moving armor has dropped by a lot, and now it is possible to approach him. Sungwoo orders the skeletons he equipped with blunt weapons to charge forward. They start bonking the Hell's moving armor from all directions using their blunt weapons. The Hell's moving armor gathers up all of his remaining strength and he smacks the skeleton soldiers with a single massive punch. Sungwoo is thinking that it dealt with the armed skeleton soldiers in just a single blow, and this boss is too dangerous to deal with physical attacks alone. Sungwoo needs to pin him down, so he orders his bone wyvern to smash into it. The Hell's moving armor smashes the bone wyvern into pieces with a single punch. Hanho and Ji-seon get worried as they think that maybe Sungwoo got caught up in that last attack. But Sungwoo was too fast to get caught and he landed right behind the shoulder of the boss. Sungwoo realizes that his shoulders have no fire on them and he starts smacking them with the scythe. Death Knight tries to tie the Hell's moving armor using his chains while Raidi keeps him in check. Sungwoo summons troll skeletons and he orders them to push the Hell's moving armor to the designated location. The Hell's moving armor heats up one of his hands to an extreme degree. He then uses his hands to fire an extreme level fire burst attack on the troll skeletons, and the heat behind this attack was so strong that the trolls return to eternal death and they cannot be resurrected again. The fire of the Hell's moving armor is getting its heat back, but Sungwoo cannot lose more of his undead soldiers as they are quite hard to gain, so he orders the ogre champion to punch him from behind. Hanho and the players are running out of water, so Hanho asks the other players if there are any water mages or they will have to use their piss as liquid to cool off the Hell's moving armor. Death Knight has taken his time to completely envelop the Hell's moving armor with his chains, and Sungwoo needs to make full use of this opportunity. Sungwoo orders the Wandering Drake to pull the chains with all of his strength. Hell's moving armor falls down after tipping over the chains, and Sungwoo orders the Wandering Drake to drag the boss monster to the trap they previously set up for him. After the Hell's moving armor is dragged to a certain location, Sungwoo orders his flesh golems to get closer to it and they jump toward the Hell's moving armor. Sungwoo tells the flesh golems to endure it for as long as they can as he's going to use up all of his mana in this single attack. Sungwoo uses his corpse explosion skill which explodes the flesh golems along with the buried dead monster, and this in turn results in a huge explosion. The players get down as the heat wave emitted from the explosion is too strong. This final attack was too big for the Hell's moving armor and he dies in that explosion. Sungwoo earns 4.5 million gold for hunting the second Hell's moving armor. He gets an additional B rank experience card as a reward for hunting it with a level lower than what was recommended. Sungwoo gained a lot of experience from this fight and he levels up to 20. After reaching level 20, all of his stats increased by 2. Sungwoo gained a title called Hell Repeller. This title granted him 2 dexterity, plus his resistance against curses and magic has increased by 10%. Sungwoo says that it is finally done, and the quest is clear, but then he remembers something. This quest previously said that it can only be completed if they killed both boss monsters within 2 hours, so in order to confirm his suspicion, he asks Zeon if they are done on their side. Zeon informs him that they killed their Hell's moving armor about 118 seconds before him, and Sungwoo becomes a bit sad as he just lost the bet after working so hard. Han Kang-sok will now get the legendary item. Sungwoo still has no idea about the class or skills of Han Kang-sok, and still, he is number 1 for a reason. Sungwoo is thinking that there's no use of crying over spilt milk and he should move on. All of a sudden, Sungwoo finds an item emitted from the dead body of the dead boss monster. After coming in contact with the item, a notification pops up, which informs Sungwoo that he has met a certain condition by gaining the Hell's Repeller title, and he is now qualified to plant the World Tree seed. As the Guardian, he will be able to grow the World Tree, and it will grow by being influenced by him. Sungwoo is not so sure as to what the system means by the World Tree, as the World Tree he saw before was not a good sign, and it was about to end the whole Korean continent. Sungwoo receives a personal quest called Guardian of Death. He needs to grow a divine world tree in Korea. As a reward, a personal skill and a title called Owner of the World Tree will be granted to him. Sungwoo has stopped the invasion of demons from the other world, which granted him the qualification to become the Guardian. If he accepts his destiny and grow the World Tree, then he will be able to obtain the great power to support the world. If the objective of nourishing the World Tree fails, a great calamity that cannot be turned back will befall on Earth. Sungwoo remembers seeing the second bad ending of the World Tree, but that World Tree was called Fallen, while this one is called a Guardian. This is a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity that is only granted to Sungwoo. There are more powerful people like the number 1 ranker Han Kang-sok, but this task was only granted to him. Sungwoo calms himself down as it's not like he can do this task right now, and there's no need to rush things. Sungwoo needs to reorganize some stuff. He might have lost the chance to get a legendary item, but it's not like he's going home empty-handed. Sungwoo received a special ranked item called Hellfire Armor. This armor increases defense by 50%, magic resistance by 30%, fire resistance by 100%, and fire damage by 20%. The size of this armor will automatically adjust to permanently fit the wearer, thus making it untradeable. Sungwoo's level increased up to 20, so he chose Corpse Explosion card as his level up reward. After choosing the card, the rank of his skill increased from basic to proficient. Now after the explosion, a small amount of breath of the abyss will be emitted, which will cause an additional 30% damage. Sung-woo uses corpse explosion on a dead hellhound nearby. The results are quite nice, as Sung-woo and his summons can become buffed after coming in contact with the breath of abyss. Sung-woo gained a lot after this mission, but there's a huge price he paid for this victory. He lost all of his troll skeletons, which are quite hard to obtain. About 30% of his skeletons died permanently during this battle, but fortunately, most of his special skeletons are still alive. All of a sudden, Han-ho comes running towards Sung-woo, screaming out loud that they are in big trouble. Sung-woo asks him what is wrong, and he asks about the guys accompanying him as they don't look like they are refugees. One of the players informs Sung-woo that they are part of outer-range scouting team from the Union. Sung-woo remembers that the Union has many small teams which are used to gather information from the surrounding areas. Sung-woo asks him why they are here, and the scout says that they need to get out of this place as soon as possible. They were sent here to scout the area, and while doing their job, they witnessed a huge group of werebeasts coming from the Songtan area around 15 minutes ago. And judging from the diversity of werebeasts, they must be part of the Evolution Society. Sung-woo is thinking that maybe the Evolution Society was waiting for the perfect time to eliminate him. He is far away from the Union and he just finished a tough fight. Maybe they thought this was the best time to get rid of him. The scout says that he already sent a report back to Yeongdong Post Station, so the prosecutor and the Crusader team will be arriving here as well. But the number of enemies is high, so Sung-woo must be careful. Before he can say anything else, they observe something passing by them at a high speed which alerts them. That unknown object collides with a building nearby, which results in a big explosion. The scout informs Sung-woo that their team 3 and 4 were hiding inside those buildings which just exploded. Sung-woo is thinking that maybe they are already under siege as the Evolution Society is here. All of them start running inside a nearby building, and Ji-seon informs them that she can feel a lot of enemies around them. Ji-seon says that there are around 300 enemies just in their vicinity, and the scout says she is correct, as they previously saw that many werebeasts marching toward this area. Sung-woo is thinking that the number of enemies are not important in normal scenarios, but if their enemies are 300 intelligent werebeasts, then everyone here will be dead. Out of nowhere, their building gets shot with another explosion shot. The survivors inside the building are panicking as they don't know what their enemies are attacking them with. Sung-woo knows well that the last attack was just to keep them in check. They threw that blast attack without knowing the exact location of Sung-woo. He is wondering if they are doing this to hold Sung-woo from running away. That explosion just now had same power as the fireball of the fire giant. The werebeasts can't endlessly make these fireballs like the fire giant, but Sung-woo cannot use a wyvern in this situation. This time, they made thorough preparations after carefully observing the fighting pattern of Sung-woo. A survivor tries to take a peek outside from his window, but the poor guy gets shot through his neck by a sniper. Ji-seon uses her area sense ability to know that the werebeasts are coming closer from the front. The werebeasts are wearing gas masks, so they cannot come in contact with the breath of abyss. The werebeasts send Team 1 and 2 to infiltrate the building and get rid of Sung-woo. They start entering the school building through some open windows. The survivors are getting anxious and afraid as they don't know exactly what is going on. The scout asks Sung-woo about his orders, but Sung-woo is trying to come up with a plan. Sung-woo is thinking that he cannot summon his huge undead boss skeletons inside the building, but that does not mean that he can just abandon the people inside and run away from here. Sung-woo orders the survivors to hide inside the classrooms and protect their families, and he will make sure that the werebeasts cannot come any closer to them. Sung-woo is a bit anxious as he is being hunted. The Evolution Society knows well about the exact number of summons he has and his fighting patterns. All of a sudden, Sung-woo observes some trucks coming toward the school building. Some new type of monsters come out of these trucks. These monsters have a bizarre look. They look neither like a human nor like a traditional monster. They are something else. Sung-woo is thinking that maybe they are the results of unethical experiments performed by the Evolution Society. Sung-woo orders Ji-seon and Han-ho to stay here and protect the survivors while he heads toward the hallway. There are only 14 minutes left until the Grim Reaper's scythe goes on the cooldown. All of his larger monsters are on cooldown as well, but fortunately he can continuously summon small skeletons while he is in his lich mode. Sung-woo is thinking whether waiting for the Crusader team is the only thing he can do right now. All of a sudden, a werebeast starts shouting after he spots Sung-woo. Sung-woo shoots 2 crossbow bolts at them, but those bolts get deflected by some sort of magic shield casted around the werebeasts. This is not looking good in Sungwoo's favor as his enemies came fully prepared. They have their gas masks on them, which means that Sungwoo can't use his Breath of Abyss skill. A few werebeasts come from behind the hallway to surround Sungwoo from both sides. Riley and the Death Knight get ready to engage them and they tell Sungwoo to leave his back to them. Some werebeasts jump towards Sungwoo from the front as they know that he is alone right now. Sungwoo powers up a little bit. He then performs a big slash attack with his scythe to cut through the first wave of werebeasts. Sungwoo keeps on chopping them like a grinder and he gets 25,000 gold for slaying each second rank werebeast. Sungwoo can kill the werebeasts without the help of his skeletons for now as Lich Mode increases all of his stats by 10%. But the main problem is on the first floor where his minions are duking it out against the new type of monsters. His skeletons are getting destroyed at a faster rate. He can resurrect them for now for as many times as he wants, but a new problem will occur once his Lich Mode ends. Sungwoo can't go outside so carelessly as there are snipers waiting for him. Plus, they have a weapon that can perform a super long range attack, and his huge skeletons will be destroyed the moment they are summoned. There are even some beastmen which are climbing the walls. Sungwoo is thinking that he needs to do something else as he cannot hold any longer. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so Sungwoo is thinking of using some riskier items like the Devil's Door to turn the tides of this war.